So in the plant kingdom, at the highest level, the kingdom level of all plants, there are some major groups of plants at a level we call phylum. They're the biggest divisions of the plant kingdom. And almost all the plants that we talk about in this course, almost all the plants we've been talking about, are flowering plants. And flowering plants make up one of the really most successful major groups of plants. But not all plants are flowering plants. There are, of course, all of the conifers, which are pines and spruce and other non-flowering trees that are needle-bearing trees. But of course, another major group of plants that aren't flowering plants are ferns. And these are lady ferns. And we're in a shady, damp part of the woods where there's a lot of ferns, and ferns aren't even seed plants. Not only do ferns not have flowers, but they actually don't produce seeds at all. Rather, ferns reproduce by spores. And I've seen 3 different fern species out here today. I'm just going to grab one of these lady ferns and lift it up, and we'll look on the bottom and see the Sporangia. So we'll find that underneath the leaves, at the right time of year, there are brown structures called sori, S-O-R-I, that produce the spores. So here's a lady fern. I'm going to take you and show you 2 other ferns. Besides the lady fern, there's a sensitive fern and there's a Christmas fern. So let me just see if I can give you those 2 other fern species as we walk along. This is also a fern, but it's a different species of fern, and I think you can tell that pretty quickly because it's got a much broader leaf and a different color. So there's your sensitive fern. And then I did see a 3rd fern species, which is our Christmas fern. Let me see if I can grab that for you really quickly. Run up here, and then you will have seen, wow, just in a few short paces, 3 different native fern species here in this shady woodland at the Bryn Coed Preserve. Right in here, I can see a 3rd fern, and I'm going to try to show it to you without getting poison ivy. So these big fronds are our Christmas fern. So there's the 3rd species of fern. None of them right now are showing those spore cases because of the time of year. So I'll look for a fern later where I can show you those or just show a picture of where the spores are produced. So ferns are in a group called the Pteridophyta. Pteridophyta for the ferns, not flowering plants, and yet they're certainly plants. The other really important group out here that's not a flowering plant, but there's still a plant, are the mosses. And moss belongs to a group called the Bryophyta. And they're people who are specialists just in studying moss. And there's a lot of moss diversity as well. There aren't that many people who study mosses, but mosses have as much diversity as a lot of other groups, but they're very little studied. So let me just show you 1 or 2 mosses, and that'll actually give us a really nice look at some of these shade plants that are not flowering. Even right here on this log, you can see right there, there's a little bit of a really common moss. That's a living green plant. It photosynthesizes. It actually is still using sunlight, but it's not one of the what we call higher plants. Instead, it's going to be really just a small, low, mossy growth. And just a couple more ferns. This is actually rock polypody that's growing up at the Meng Preserve in the rocks. These are an asplenium, and this is actually a fern that's growing here in Haverford Township, and a place where I do some field notes when I'm actually making this plant observations. You can see some of the sketching here of the fronds of those fern. So ferns are pretty great.